What can we get for you?
Can I get a tomato soup and half a slow smoked pork butt?
Obviously, sustainable food must have its difficulties. Can you talk about some of the things that are maybe more difficult than going with conventionally grown food?
Well, yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think it'd be nearly impossible to, for example, use produce that was only grown locally. And I don't think there's really anybody out there doing that. For me, it's more of an approach. So like I approach things like citrus fruit as more of a luxury. I love using citrus fruit in everything I make. But obviously we don't grow that here in Oregon. So it's kind of like for me it's the approach, like not taking it for granted. So using it where we can, when we can, and understanding that we're lucky to have the things that we have.
So why did you decide to go local? Why not go conventional farms from other places across the country?
It just feels better. I mean, it's good to know where your food's coming from. And I'd like to get into it further. Recently, there's one of our patrons. He works for the forestry service, and he's got a farm out in Estacada. And the other day, me and a buddy who also has a barbecue cart down the way, we went out and helped butcher a couple of pigs and kind of got hands-on. And so it's just nice to be able to know where it comes from, to be able to connect and get involved at a basic sort of level.
So with local food, is the profit margin slimmer than it would be with conventionally grown food?
Slightly. It's getting better and better. More and more people are catching on, and so the difference is becoming less. But yeah, it's still a little bit. But the product is better. Like if I were to get pork butts from Cash and Carry from one of the big butchers, it'd be cheaper per pound, but there'd be a gigantic amount of fat on it. And so we get a better product, less fat. They trim it up better, and so overall, we're not spending that much more for it.
I've been hearing a lot about this slow food movement. Can you kind of explain what that is and why it's such a big deal?
Well, I think it's just a reaction to a fast food movement, which technology allowed us to can things and freeze things, and then eventually the goal was to get things as fast and pre-prepared and preserved as possible. And I think people more and more are realizing that what's good for their bodies and good for the environment and good for the city and good for the community is food that you know where it comes from, and food that takes time to prepare. Like soup is a prime example. Good soup takes time, and I think that there's something about the flavor you can develop and the passion that goes into it that slow food, it gives you something that other foods can't.
So now the soup. It's creamy. Croutons. That's good.
Over time I've changed. It's more, at first, and still like largely guiding principle to sourcing things is local is best. But over time, and I've just kind of found that, why not support people that are doing things? They may be a little farther away from home, but maybe they're just doing things the right way, and that's worth supporting too. I had a guy that I was buying artichokes from 2 years ago who was grew out in Sherwood. He had an artichoke farm. But when I went to go visit the farm, the guy sprayed it was just ridiculous. And here's I liked it. It was cute. This old farmer guy shows up with a bunch of cases of baby artichokes. And they looked great. It tasted good, but his practices for growing them were just real hands off. He was a lot older and was trying to do it all himself.
That's interesting. You just expect a local farmer like that to just naturally be kind of sustainable and not.
You would think, but sustainable and cheap are two different things. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's much more more labor intensive than, an older guy that's perhaps, just kind of like doesn't have the wherewithal to, put in that time, and then probably just can't afford to hire people at that time. It's not going to get enough.
What is the key to converting more restaurants into local establishments?
I think the key is just to have people really taste the difference, And the key, I think, is for restaurants that are doing it and doing it well to let their customers know that here's where a lot of our food is coming from. We buy from these local vendors, local purveyors, because I think people, they know they can taste the difference, but a lot of times they just don't know that that's what the difference is. I mean, and that's it's good to let them know that, I guess, because then they'll that's the biggest way. I think more restaurants will convert if they realize that, look, the produce that's coming from local farms, the meats, they're so much fresher, and they're so much better because they're not full of hormones and antibiotics, and the biggest part about cooking is to not screw them up. You know what I mean? And so, but I mean, overall, I think people can taste the difference, and if they know that that's why it tastes different than most other places, more people will go and they'll just demand it and they'll look out for it, and it'll be, hopefully, one of the, just the only successful business model.
And you're catching things at go time, man. I mean, lettuces are available, arugula is available from the local farms. Right now, most everything is coming from the farms down in the Corvallis area. But pretty soon we'll get going up around here.
Where are some of the farms that you get most of your produce from?
As the season gets better, I start working with Gaining Ground Farm up here, which is outside of Yamhill, and I work with a couple of small CSA farms down in the Johnson Creek area, Backyard Bounty, Sarah and Colin's farm.
Yeah.
And it's fun. There's the Selwood Garden Club operates out of Selwood. They're kind of fun to buy from. It's a woman who basically strikes deals with people to garden in their yards, and kind of they provide the water and the land, and in exchange, I think they get they get some of the produce, but then she can also sell a lot of that produce. Kind of raise money. It's a non-profit, I believe. So it's fun to buy from them. They don't have very big quantities, but the stuff that they do have is often really, really, really good.
So what helps you determine choosing a certain place to source your ingredients from?
Well, we're lucky around here in Portland because there's so many to choose from that pretty much just kind of depends on what day of the week I end up having to order. And I'll just kind of go, they all have different delivery days, and so I just sort of, whenever I know what I need, I'm like, well, who can get that to me tomorrow? And that's kind of how I do it a lot of the time. There's always a farmer's market you can swing by and get what you need. And we're so lucky here in Portland. It's really, really, really easy. Of course, the hardest part is, in the winter time, sourcing some of the same stuff. It's all of a sudden especially for me, it's that's where the Meatball Hero comes in.
What do we believe the future of the green movement will look like in the restaurant industry?
I really feel like I need to change about the movement. You know what I mean? I think the work that people are doing now is good, and it's the right direction. And I guess if there's anything that'll be the future, would be growing site specific. I mean, some people do it. Maybe you'll see that be the new standard, where you better have a rooftop garden. You know what I mean? Or, and that kind of thing. I mean, some people are doing it. Maybe that'll be, maybe the future of green movement in restaurants are buildings that house the restaurants that are themselves, their own little ecosystem.
That is so good. We're going to show you what slow food is about by making a chicken. So can you tell us a little bit about Sexton Ranches?
Yes, Sexton Ranches is located in eastern Oregon, and we produce grass-fed, grass-finished beef, lamb, and chicken, pastured chicken. And then we have chicken eggs and duck eggs. And yeah, it's beautiful, and the animals are happy, and it's good stuff. It tastes great.
The slow food movement promotes people to buy ethically grown food at farmers markets and local marketplaces. So that's the rosemary? Yeah. It smells good?
Actually, this is not rosemary.
Oh, that's sage.
You don't know anything, dude.
That's what you're like. They need some.
The slow food movement encourages people to garden. Okay, so what's this right here? This is sage.
Break it up a little bit. Stick it firmly in the ground, and then we bury it. Mmm, rosemary. So fresh.
And there you have it. Rosemary and sage right in your garden.
It grows back. If anyone's worried. First you kind of get it into a ball, your thing, right? And then you kind of fold it, and you just start cutting it. See, look, the good thing if you pound it really hard, it's already like mushed, so all you have to do is just... See, Jake's learning from my cooking techniques.
Where'd you learn how to cook?
He's gonna be a chef here and no joke.
Cooking channel. What? That's it? God dang it. Garlic.
Basil,
Sage. Rosemary. Just put a lot of salt in there. Dude, did not put that in yet.
a good life.
It did. Look at it. Still.
Still having a good life.
Alright. Dude, how are we supposed to fit all this in here?
Where's Gabe at? Peeing, isn't he? I wonder how I'm gonna take that. What's the best part?
Tasty. Nice.
The movement also supports preserving the social interactions involved in preparing slow food.
We encourage you to eat slow food. Dun 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 dun.